Hi, having a successful relationship does not have to be a mystery. If you're someone who feels like you start your relationships with so much hope only to have them end with such great disappointment, or maybe you feel like you keep picking the wrong person over and over again, and you never seem to find someone who loves you like you do, who cares as much as you do, who gives as much effort as you do, then I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to help you finally succeed in your relationships. Hi, my name is Olivia. I am passionate about helping you understand what relational trauma is so that you can heal from it, overcome it, and move on with your life. So today, everything is coming from my book, How to Stop Chasing Rejection. I will put a QR code on the screen for you if you're interested in getting it. What we're really looking at today is why relationships are not working, or why your relationships might not be working. There's lots of reasons relationships don't work. But if we're constantly having relationships not work, then it could be because we are struggling maybe with codependent traits, chasing rejection, but we really don't know what that is, why that is, or really even what it looks like. We just know that we want to try again, and so we jump in with both feet, we give our whole heart, and in the end it ends up just exactly the same. And it's confusing when you feel like you thought for sure this one was going to be different. So first of all, one big tip is learning how to go slow in relationships. So if we are meeting someone and right away we're already going to try to make it work, that would be starting off not on a good foot. What we want to do, especially if you're dating someone, you want to commit to see if you want to commit to get to know them. So those are a few steps behind committing to a relationship. So I'm not going to have a couple of interactions, go meet with you, and now this is my person, and now I'm already dreaming about a future, and any problems come up, I'm going to ignore them, or I'm going to make excuses, or I'm going to minimize it, and I'm only going to look at what's the same. I'm not going to do that anymore because I actually want to find someone who's going to be a good fit for me. So to do that, I'm first going to commit to see if this is someone I want to get to know better. That's the very first step. So what I'm going to be watching for, are they rude? Do they get drunk on our first date? To me, that's a giant red flag. If you're supposed to be on your best behavior, especially that first time meeting someone and someone's not, then that's probably already, I'm just going to move on. And that could be if they're rude to you, if they're rude to a waiter, to any type of staff. Do they ask questions and also answer questions? Is there a back and forth? So I'm just kind of getting a feel for the person in general. And one thing I want to do, which is kind of leading into our next step, finding someone who's going to make it work with you, who you have the best chance of having it work, is first of all someone who is not rude, someone who doesn't treat people poorly, someone who can manage their alcohol if they even drink. So those are just like a few of the tips. I'll actually link a video for dating and how to date safe, and it's going to give you an idea of when to run. So if any of those when to run things pop up, then it's time to run. Otherwise, I could commit to seeing who you are. So going into finding someone who's going to help you go the distance or go the distance with you is to find someone who has a shared value system. That means what's really important to you is already naturally important to them. Not that they're going to figure out what's important to you, and because it's important to you, it's going to become important to them. That is not where we want to start. Yes, that does happen over time in relationships, and that's just like a mutual respect. But when we're trying to find a partner who is going to go the distance with us, what we're looking for is a shared value system. So you want to see, who are you? What's important to you? What do you value? Before we're going to be able to do that, we really need to understand who we are as individuals and what is it that we value. So you can find who you value by looking at who you admire. So if there's someone in your life that you just have a lot of respect for, it's more than likely because they show values that you have. So let's say you value animals and this person you really admire is an animal lover, or they're so good with their animals, or they're such advocates of animals. That's probably a big reason why you love them so much, is because they exercise some of your values. So understanding what's important to you, look at the people you admire, and then you would write down, what is it about these people that I admire? Maybe they have a strong work ethic. Maybe they're very honest. Maybe they're really good at saving money and being stable, then that would show that you value stability. Maybe they are fly by the seat of their pants and they always are taking these big trips, and you would just can't imagine being so spontaneous. Maybe you really value spontaneity. Maybe you value travel. So it's really looking at who do you admire, who do you respect, and what about them causes you to give them so much respect or so much admiration, because that's going to point you to what it is you value. So you want to make a list of your values. I would say try to find at least 4 or 5. Maybe you really value fitness. Maybe you value, family. So can you imagine if you get with someone who also values fitness, who also values family? These are not things you have to explain or defend. They just understand, and they're an overlap that you have in common and ways that you can build and grow your relationship. You're always going to have differences. You're always going to have similarities. But the greatest predictor of longevity, meaning how far a relationship's going to go, the distance it's going to last, is mostly determined by a shared value system. So it's important to understand who you are as an individual. What is it you value? Then you commit to seeing if you want to understand this person more. And so you go on a date and you're like, okay, they were actually very polite. They're very kind. They had good manners. They were, on time. They didn't interrupt. They asked questions and they answered questions. I got a good vibe from them. I'm going to commit to seeing who they are as a person. I'm not dreaming about a cabin. And if I catch myself dreaming about a cabin with them, I'm going to reel myself back. So the more future planning you have, the more emotionally you're getting hooked to that person. And now you're not just committed to getting to know who they are and their values. You're starting to commit to them. And you don't want to do that early. When you struggle with chasing rejection, that's exactly what you do. We're like, text a few times, now we're at Starbucks, and by the time we leave, we're going to plan how to remodel my basement. You don't want to do that, right? We're not going to talk super personal. Again, that dating video has lots of tips and tricks for how not to fall so fast, how to stay back, proper steps in finding someone. So thinking about that, it's like, okay, so far we've messaged back and forth. I got a good feel for you. Now here we are face to face. I'm liking the way this is going. I like what I see from you. I am going to commit to getting to know you better for now. At least I'm open to that possibility. And then with our next few dates, then we really want to start to see where is the overlap in the values and where is the difference in the values. When you struggle with codependent traits and you're used to chasing rejection, you have a history of failed relationships, jumping way too fast, you commit before that first 90 days, you get hooked super early on, you go on a couple dates and you're in a relationship before you really get to know the person. That's exactly what happens when we have codependency. Instead of doing that, we want to go slow, figure out who this person is. We want to take our time, definitely not ever be in a hurry, because you will know if you're probably watching this video, it's really easy sometimes to get in a relationship. It can be incredibly hard to get out. And it does seem the more abusive, the more manipulative, the more, damage that occurs, the harder it is for us to leave, which we would think it would be backwards, but statistics show that it's really not. So being mindful, yeah, I could commit super fast, but I can't get my heart out of this super fast. Let me go really slow and try to decide with my head, is this a person that I want to commit to? So learning what your values are, understanding what their values are, seeing if there is overlap. And again, if you have those codependent traits and chase rejection, we ignore difference and we really blow up what's the same. We don't want to do that. So there may be some overlap in values, but some massive differences. And usually the deal breakers are in the difference. It doesn't mean that you can't find a way to manage the difference between the two people, but it's usually just a barrier that you're going to face, especially if they're big ones. For example, if you really value children and you want to have children and they don't, I would say that's going to be a deal breaker. If you've ever spoken with a couple who faces that issue, it's like a lifelong ongoing issue. It doesn't mean it can't be resolved, but there's, to me, very few times that I've come across that it is. So just being mindful, what is super important to you? What are like your top 3 values that are kind of your non-negotiables, that you don't want to be with someone who doesn't have these same values? This doesn't mean you're looking for someone who is you or like you, or it's only going to work if you can find an exact replica. That probably wouldn't work. Truly, you know, most people would not date themselves if they had a choice, because it's like, no, I know all your little tricks, all your little games. I'm not falling for this. So we want to find a similar value system. You're not going to find someone who perfectly matches. And if it did, you probably wouldn't like that. But also you have those main deal breaker ones. And if it's different, if you've gone slow in the beginning, it's going to be a lot easier to say, you know what, I've really enjoyed my time with you. I appreciate what I've learned, but this just not a good fit. It's not going to be for me. That is such an easier conversation to have if you haven't been dreaming about building a cabin and you're spending so much time with this person right off the bat and you're going super fast in the relationship. When you go slow, you can clearly see what's there, and then you can say no, and that allows you to move on to the next person to see if they have a shared value. Because remember, if you want to stop chasing rejection and stop having this cycle of failed relationships, then we go slower in relationships. That gives us less failed relationships. And instead, I've just met a lot of really cool people. I've got to know a lot of people and what it is they value. I've met very few who are someone I would want to entertain and get to know further, but I'm still entertaining others to see if I can find that match. I think the biggest thing is, if we keep getting entangled because of these codependent traits with people who are not only not a match for us, but not good for us, we're just continuing to waste our time. So the trick is, know who you are, learn how to go slow, which is you don't commit to anything more than to see if you want to get to know them more. And then if you do want to get to know them more, you're still not committed to them. You're just seeing who they are. And if you come across the difference in those deal breakers, you just got to be done. A big one, just really fast, is marriage. If you really value marriage, and that means a lot to you, and that's why you're dating, is to get married, and you meet someone who's not really into marriage, they're not really looking for marriage, then that already would be, if that's one of your deal breakers, that would be a clear no. And a lot of people continue to date. They learn this, and then they go on another date, and another date, and another. And then eventually, after 10 years, they get married. And then within 6 months, they're divorced. So thinking of, if this is so important to me, this is one of my main values, and it's not one of yours. Even when we get married, to me, that's going to mean a whole nother something to get married. But if I marry someone who doesn't value marriage, oftentimes you're going to hear him say something like, it's just a piece of paper. Nothing really changed. I'm just as every bit committed as I was before we actually got married. So it's going to still have problems within the relationship because it doesn't mean the same thing, even though they both went through the same act. So for more tips and tricks, you can find How to Stop Chasing Rejection, help you heal those codependent traits, finally find success in relationships. It's available on Amazon. I'll also put the link in the description, and I'll put some more videos on the screen for you to go and learn more until my next one. So take good care, and I'll see you in the next one.